The layoffs came. They didn't take your job. They took your manager's.
That's not a hypothetical anymore. That's the actual shape of what's happening right now, and almost nobody saw it coming from this direction. For 3 years, you've been told the robot is coming for the bottom of the ladder first. The junior people, the entry-level work, the folks who just started. So here's the real question this whole video is about. What if it's the opposite? What if the first seat artificial intelligence actually removes isn't yours at all, but the one directly above you, the person you report to? The answer is yes, that's already the pattern. And the reason why change is what you should be doing this week. Because the manager wasn't cut for being bad at the job. The manager was cut because a large part of that job was moving information around. And that is the one thing AI does almost for free. Let me show you how fast this is moving. Because the speed is the story. Just last month, Meta cut around 8,000 jobs, roughly a tenth of the company. And at the same time, moved 7,000 people into brand new AI teams built on what they called AI native design. Translation: fewer management layers per person. Reports put their target at something close to 1 manager for every 50 engineers. Hold that number in your head, 1 to 50. 5 years ago, that same manager might have had 6 or 8 direct reports. This week, Bloomberg ran a piece with a blunt headline about why companies are cutting middle managers in the AI era. Not entry level, middle managers. Back in the fall, Amazon announced around 14,000 corporate roles gone, and the memo said the goal out loud: reduce bureaucracy, remove layers. In April, Oracle restructured tens of thousands of roles while pouring $50 billion into AI infrastructure, and one of its chief executives said the quiet part plainly. Smaller teams can now deliver more, faster, so you need fewer layers in between. This isn't 5 companies having a bad year. It's a direction. The research firm Gartner predicted that through this year, 1 in 5 organizations would use AI to eliminate more than half of their middle management positions. More than half. And the raw counts back it up. Manager headcount at public companies dropped about 6% in 3 years. Middle managers, who used to be a small slice of layoffs, were close to a third of them last year. So, speed established. Now the part that actually matters to you. Why the boss and not you? Think about what a middle manager has historically done all day. Strip away the title and the salary, and a huge chunk of it is information routing. They gather status from the people below. They summarize it. They push it up. They take strategy from above and translate it down. They sit in the meeting so they can repeat the meeting to you. They turn 10 updates into 1 slide. For 100 years, that job existed because no single person at the top could see what 40 people were actually doing. You needed a human relay in the middle. Jack Dorsey, who built Twitter and Block, put it about as sharply as anyone. He argued that hierarchy only ever existed to route information through an organization too big for one person to hold in their head. The manager was the messenger, and once a machine can carry the message continuously, instantly, to everyone at once, the messenger isn't necessary anymore. That's the whole trick. The dashboards, the AI summaries, the tools that watch the actual output of a team and report it straight up the chain. They don't replace the work you do. They replace the person who used to tell the boss about the work you do. Senior leaders can now see individual output directly, and the second they can see you directly, the layer that existed only to describe you starts to look like cost. If that sounds extreme, it's worth knowing it has happened before without any AI at all. Back in the late 80s and through the 90s, a wave of what companies called delayering swept through corporate America. The most famous version was General Electric under Jack Welch, who took something like a dozen layers between the chief executive and the factory floor and crushed them down to 4 or 5, handing each surviving manager a much wider group to oversee. So the instinct to flatten is old. What's new is the tool. Welch needed mass firings and brute force to remove a layer. Today, a company can remove the same layer by handing the information work to software that never sleeps. The motive is identical. The method just got quiet, cheap, and fast, which means it can go much further than it ever did in Welch's day. Where a manager once carried 6 or 8 people, the typical manager today already oversees close to double what they did 5 years ago. And the tools pushing that number up are only getting better. Here's a question, and I genuinely want your answer in the comments, because it tells you almost everything about your own exposure. How many layers of management sit between you and the person who actually decides your budget? Drop the number. 1, 3, 5, whatever it is, that number is the thing being compressed right now. And watching everyone's answers is going to be more honest than any headline.
Now the twist. Because if you stopped here, you'd walk away thinking the doers won. And it's half true, which is the dangerous half. When the org flattens, the individual contributor does survive the cut. The person doing the actual, visible, measurable work is exactly who these companies say they want to keep. Amazon's chief executive literally ordered every team to raise the ratio of workers to managers. The doer is safe in a way the coordinator is not. That's the good news, and it's real. But survival comes with a bill attached. The same flattening that saves your seat also strips away the buffer that used to sit between you and the top. That manager you might have resented, they absorbed pressure. They caught vague instructions and turned them into something doable. They took the blame when a number missed. When that layer disappears, your work isn't filtered anymore. It's exposed. The high beam that used to land on your boss now lands on you. Flatter doesn't only mean leaner. It means more visible, more accountable, and far less protected. The people thriving in this aren't just doing good work. They're doing legible work. Work that holds up when a senior leader looks straight at it with no one standing in between to explain it. And before you treat any of this as gospel, I want to be honest about the other side. Because a lot of what gets sold as AI is not what it looks like. A good amount of this is what insiders now openly call AI washing. Sam Altman, who runs OpenAI, admitted some companies are blaming AI for layoffs they'd have done anyway. The investor Mark Andreessen said roughly the same, that AI has become the convenient excuse for cuts driven by overhiring and interest rates. Even Amazon's own chief executive, talking about removing layers, said it wasn't really financially driven and not even really AI driven. Not right now. So some of this boss-first story is genuinely AI, and some of it is old-fashioned cost-cutting wearing a smarter costume. It also doesn't always work. Forrester found that more than half of employers already regret their AI-related layoffs. The company Klarna replaced around 700 support staff with AI, watched quality fall and customers revolt, and scrambled to hire humans back. Cut the wrong layer or cut too deep, and you don't get a flat, efficient machine. You get a hollow one. So this is not a clean story of robots winning. It's messier than that. But the direction, the squeeze on the middle, and the spotlight on the individual, that part is not hype. That part is just real. And the people coming up behind you can already see it. Deloitte found that only about 6% of Gen Z say they actually want a senior leadership role. 6%. They watch the middle get treated as something to be optimized away, and they drew the obvious conclusion. Building your whole career toward management now looks like building toward the exact thing your company is trying to delete. That's the part that should reframe how you think about your next 5 years. The ladder you were taught to climb is missing a chunk of its middle rungs, and pretending they'll grow back is the riskiest plan of all. So what do you actually do with this starting this week? Stop trying to climb toward the disappearing seat and start making your own work undeniable. 3 moves. First, get legible. Whatever you produce, make the outcome visible without a manager to narrate it. Write the one-line result, not the long activity log. If a senior leader looked at your month with nobody translating, would the value be obvious? Make it obvious. Second, own an outcome end to end, not a task. The people who survive flattening aren't holding a piece of a process. They hold a whole result and the judgment that comes with it. The part where someone decides what good even looks like. AI can do the task. It can't yet own the call. Third, build accountability into your own work, the way a careful business does. What's your check when the AI is wrong? How do you protect the quality, the data, the trust behind what you ship? That used to be your manager's job. In a flat org, it quietly becomes yours. And that last move is exactly where I'll point you to something, honestly, because it's the gap most people are about to fall into. Vance Sterling wrote a book called The AI Survival Guide for Middle Managers. Now you might be thinking, I'm not a manager. Read it anyway, because in a flattening org, the management work doesn't vanish. It lands on the individual contributors who are left. The judgment, the accountability, the controls that keep your output trustworthy when there's no layer above you to catch the mistakes. It's not a get-rich book. It's about the things that keep your seat and your reputation safe when the buffer is gone. The link's in the description if you want it. Because here's where we end up. For years, you braced for the machine to come up the ladder from the bottom, one rung at a time, starting with the new people. That was never quite right. It's not climbing up toward you. It's hollowing out the middle, right above your head, and leaving you standing there fully lit with no one in between. The layoffs came. They took your manager's job, not yours. And the only thing that decides whether that's the best news of your career or the warning you ignored is what you build in the weeks before the spotlight finds you.